I was lucky enough to go to the Sydney Film Festival for 2026, and so I wanted to take some time to sit down and talk about some of the films I saw. What was really cool about this festival is that it got a lot of films directly from Cannes. So I actually got to see the Palme d'Or winner and a bunch of other really big films from that festival almost immediately. I think it was like the second showing in the world of some of those films. So I felt incredibly lucky, and it was a great festival and it had a great selection of films. So without further ado, let's talk about some of these films. Let's start with an Australian film, because this is an Australian festival after all. First up is Leviticus. This is an Australian horror film. For a long time, Australian horror has been this unique genre that has slowly been growing. I mean, look at Talk to Me, look at The Babadook, look at Bring Her Back, look at Together, and now we've got Leviticus. So I'm always going to be in support of Australian films getting out there and getting in front of people, and this one's great. It's been great seeing this off the back of Obsession and Backrooms. Because obviously there's this wave of horror in the world, not just Australian, that is being written at the moment, and I think it comes at the perfect time for that. It has a really cool concept for the threat or the antagonist of this film, and I think it's a really smart way of portraying something scary, but also keep it to a budget, because this is, after all, a low-budget horror film, and it does a lot with what it has. Its two leads, Joe Bird and Stacey Clausen, are really good and they have great chemistry with each other. Yes, this is a queer horror film, and to see the way an Australian filmmaker can build on this culture that has been developing for, 50 or 60 years. And it's not the last time I'll talk about queer horror in this video. So yeah, had a great time. Highly recommend across the world. And if you see this, I hope the Australian accents aren't too off-putting for you around the world, because for me, it just felt like home. The next movie I saw was Colony. This was a Korean zombie film, which I'm always here for a zombie film, of course. Like, I've always got time for that. Again, what I liked about this film is that it took an established genre and switched things up on it. So the concept of the zombies is that, without spoiling it really, is that they're sort of a hive mind. And I think that's a really cool idea to explore. Like, not wholly original, but in the way that it's portrayed in this, it definitely is. And it's really effective for me in keeping this kind of film fresh without it just being like, okay, another zombie film. And the zombies themselves had really great special effects. It was like this gooey fungus material covering them, and it was super gross, super convincing, and the performances of the actors was awesome. A lot of contortioning of their bodies, and I loved it. I will say it was pretty two-dimensional besides these good things like flat characters and a bit of a flat script. But I don't know, man, you know what you're signing up for with one of these kind of movies, and it doesn't disappoint on the zombie front. I will say it has an incredible third act that left such a good impression when I was leaving. And there's this one scene in particular, you'll know exactly what I mean, that was like a zombie rave. And it left such an impression on me. Really cool. The next film is The Peril at Pincer Point. Yes, very fun movie. This was similar in style to Hundreds of Beavers from a year or two ago, in the way that it's shot and the way that its humor works. And for me, it was right up my alley, that kind of humor. It was almost Lynchian, which I know is a word that's thrown around a lot to refer to things, but it was this off-kilter humor that leaves you as an audience pretty confused as to what's real and what's not real and who's taking this seriously and who's not. And that was really fun. It was by two first-time feature film directors, two young guys, and look, I'm just excited to see what they do next. I think it's the kind of film I don't need to explain much about really, because I think you just go in and you watch it. But suffice to say, there is a peril at Pincer Point. The next movie was Mile End Kicks. This is a Canadian coming-of-age film, and it's actually produced/exec produced by Matt Johnson of Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. So of course I'm going to give this a look no matter what. He's my boy. And it's a really fun film. And it's got great performances, great leads. It's got Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid in it, who is having a great career resurgence with this in Oppenheimer. And I thought he was really effective as the heartthrob in this. To be honest, I don't have too much to say really about this, as it follows a music critic in the early 2000s. And I'm sure that's really cool for people who love music from this time and grew up in this time with this music. But for me, I couldn't really relate to it in that sense. So I just enjoyed it on the merits of it being a rom-com and a coming-of-age story. So I had a good time on that account. Okay, now we're getting into some of the big ones. Next, I saw Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. This is Jane Schoenbrand's new film. It's their follow-up to their first film, I Saw the TV Glow, which I thought had some really, really cool elements and some excellent horror genre stuff, but I wasn't crazy about it. This film is an homage to slasher franchises and their inherent queer elements, which I think is a really cool basis for the theme. Unfortunately, I couldn't completely connect with the film, even though I recognize that it has a lot of elements that I like. I totally recognize it's probably not a film that is specifically geared towards me. And even though, my understanding may not have been on the level of others, I still absolutely loved the elements of the film that did speak to me. Hannah Einbinder and Gillian Anderson are the leads, and both are just on fire. I mean, Gillian Anderson, you can put her in anything, and I find her quite captivating. Next up is Fatherland. This was a really intimate, reserved, but quietly confident film about German identity in a post-World War II world. I love Sandra Hüller, and her performance in this is, of course, excellent as the lead. Although it isn't the most flashy of film, it's well written, it's shot beautifully in black and white, and it has a really lovely score. It takes place in both West and East Germany, which I think is a really interesting setting for it, and one that I haven't truly explored that deeply. And it has a really poignant ending that I thought was really, really nice and comforting. So definitely recommend Fatherland, even though it is long and slow. It's definitely my flavor of movie, so it works for me. Next is The Invite, the big film to come out of Sundance this year. This is Olivia Wilde. She's back directing in what is my favorite film from her so far. This is a remake / homage to the classic Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and it stars 4 fantastic actors just chewing up the screen as they deconstruct marriage as a societal construct and how we get trapped within the status quo without knowing whether we actually want to be in it or not, and if we just feel the pressure to remain there. I loved Edward Norton. Look, everyone is good in this. Penelope Cruz, Olivia Wilde, Seth Rogen, and Edward Norton, sure. But for me, he's just awesome. I just love him as an actor in anything he's in. But he's just really well used here. And I just want to see him doing more stuff like this, honestly. I did think Seth Rogen probably could have turned down the riffing. I mean, it was maybe too many jokes per minute at one point. You're just like, okay, dude. Like, his humor can kind of grate on me a bit. But still, I had a really, really enjoyable time with this movie. And yeah, I'm sure most people will as well. And I'll be interested to see if it has any cultural impact. Now for the honorable mentions. I either fell asleep or I was too exhausted to go see these. I had tickets for them, but it was 11 days. And there were a lot of films and panels to attend to in that time. So unfortunately, I didn't get to any of these. And it really sucks because they are definitely going to be in some awards conversations later in the year. So I will just have to see them then. So that's annoying. I will have to try and watch them at some point. So they are Minotaur and La Bola Negra. I will try and watch them at some point later in the year when they come out. And last but not least, and probably my favourite film at the festival, it was Fjord, which is also the Palme d'Or winner. I feel lucky that I got to see this in relatively closer time to the good people at Cannes. So this was really cool. And I totally understand why it won the grand prize there. It's a very Cannes-coded movie, it feels to me. This European drama that deconstructs familial relationships and pushes the characters to their limits psychologically. I think those kind of films do well at Cannes, and they do well with me. So it was a very happy marriage. Of course, it's starring 2 of my loves, Renata Rensve and Sebastian Stan, who are both fabulous. For me, this is a great example of why films are great. They can challenge you to consider a point of view you may not have before. In this case, it's to empathize with people whose beliefs you probably don't agree with. And that's really effective in this. It looks at an immigrant family who moved to Norway and enroll their kids in school and come from a traditionally conservative and religious background, and how that butts up against what is ultimately a very progressive country in Norway. I do think the film will be embraced with mixed feelings, and I'll be interested to see how it is adopted by the culture, if at all, as it plays it very safe with its messages. And I'm sure both sides of the spectrum would have liked it to have leaned further towards their side, maybe. But I'll be interested to see what people think. For me, I like the balance it struck, and it definitely shone a light on a system that may be broken in a country that you traditionally associate with these progressive ideals of equality and right to religious beliefs. So yeah, those were my movies from the Sydney Film Festival this year. What a pleasure it was to go, and hopefully I'll get to go next year. If you want to see a full ranking of the movies that I saw, you can find that at my letterbox at Films with Darcy. I make videos here, I make videos on TikTok and Instagram, shorts of every single film I see. I think I'm up to nearly 40 for the year, so if you'd like to see that, please follow me at all those places at Films with Darcy. It's been a pleasure having you here. What movies did I miss from the Sydney Film Festival if you attended? And what of these movies are you excited to see? Thank you.